First gig was, I'm not sure what it was called at the time, but it was the Star, or the last, I think the last place it was called was the Star Bar over on about 103rd and Harlem, somewhere in there.
It was at Bobby McGee's, Harlem Avenue. What was that, be like 101st and Harlem at the time? It was May 7th.
It was in May. It was at, I believe back then it was called, it just changed hands again from like Lot Ford and Bobby McGee's or something.
Nice big stage. They had just redone the stage and made it a lot bigger.
And back then, that was a good venue. That was had good sized stage, as you know, and pretty good sound men, and it was a well known, club for hard rock and heavy metal on the South Side.
Got there, we loaded up, loaded in, got set up, and the place was packed.
Oh yeah, that was where Dan had coined the phrase "I love to hate show day."
Shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall, as deep as you could go, all the way into the back hallway for the bathrooms.
They showed up. So that was Bobby McGee's, which became Star Bar, but it was Bobby McGee's at the time. And they showed up. And I remember with all this hype rolling in, I kind of felt a lot of pressure to deliver, right? And then when I saw all the people show up and fill that place, just hundreds of people, they bought the hype. So it was time to deliver, and I definitely felt that pressure, which was funny. Like, most of the time I feel pressure, it's being the front person, because I don't generally want that much attention. I don't want all the eyes on me or whatever. And I wasn't the front person in that band, I was just playing guitar, and that's as nervous as I can remember being.
We had about 300 people that first show. I don't know, the place is packed.
And I remember checking with Dan. I was like, man, I'm freaking nervous. And he's like, yeah, so am I. And that's what I think that's the first time I ever heard him say, I love to hate show day. And I was like, that's exactly how I feel. So I remember just being shaking in my boots.
It was probably the most nervous I'd ever been in my life. Not knowing what to expect. I mean, as a band, we were ready, because we had been practicing for so long, but I remember being almost sick to my stomach nervous.
It was a good night with a lot of our friends there, and that's where we got the ball rolling. And it was a very exciting night, because we all were pretty excited to present what we've been working on for months.
I gave him the posters and the things for Facebook, and we would put them all over Facebook. He would physically print these, though, like these posters, and put them up at the venue months ahead of time. So there was this huge hype campaign of Maiden Chicago, this new Maiden tribute that had some new people and these veterans, people you can rely on.
We just went up there and just ripped ass, and it was so much fun, so much fun.
And I made, as prepared as I was so nervous, I made more mistakes that night than I think I've ever made in my life. But it got great reviews. It was great. And we came out of the gate strong, playing shows every week.
Oh, it went amazing. What I remember the most, it was just amazing. I mean, we all delivered, and there was nothing to be worried about. We hyped it. I think if we didn't know what we had, we probably wouldn't try to build it up as something it wasn't. I think we knew we had something good, so we wanted to try to let people know, hey, this is going to be great. You should come out and see this. Yeah, it was really to join Damage Justice. That was really the only reason. Metallica is my first love. I enjoyed all my time in Maiden, and then it's like, why didn't you just do a Metallica band? There were too many to start a new one. At the time Maiden Chicago was formed. There's still too many. I'm in one, but we've been around almost 10 years now. So I had met Damaged, we played with them a couple of times. And, their singer was leaving, and I got that opportunity. In fact, Joaquin who was in Psychus, joined that band when Mike Misery left, to have his twins and stuff. And Brad left before that to have twins and stuff. And this guy, Chris, came in to replace Brad. Joaquin came in when Mike left. And so I had that connection. And I got asked by Robert to join the Metallica tribute. And that's really, I just always wanted to do that. So
I was set back. I guess part of me wondered if the band he was such an intricate part of the band, from not only from his media abilities, graphics, posters, but his playing, his singing, him as a person, that I wasn't sure where the band would be after that.
I mean, it sucked because Eric and I got along really good together. And being in a band with another guitar player, either you click or you don't. And Eric and I clicked right off the bat.
Well, I kind of understood why he wanted to leave. At the time, we were practicing in Bourbonnais, and he was up towards Elgin or something, and it was a long commute for him. So I think he had other projects he wanted to pursue, and it was fine. But, he did do a lot to get this band off the ground, that's for sure.
That happens, and when you have someone who is in such an active part in the band, someone has to fill that void. And, and musicianship, there's a lot of great musicians where we're at. And, finding someone to play the guitar parts and then also sing, that was going to have challenging in itself. But he still did some of the graphics for us and some of the things behind the scenes for a while until he had his own ventures. But I think he was an important part of the start of it. There's no doubt about that.
So I was a little worried for a while. Left on good terms. Everybody remains friends, which is really great to see, because you see so many times people leave projects locally and or professionally, whatever, and you see so much on social media. But none of that was the case. Everybody was okay. And,
it'd been interesting to see what would have happened if he would have stayed in. I don't know, but we've had so many good musicians in and out of the band over the years that, like I said, there's no shortage of quality players, but he brought a lot of extra to the band, so I think it was a big deal.
Although I've been listening to Maiden since early teens, like 15, 16 years old when I first started playing guitar. My first band out of high school, towards the end of high school, and when I got out, was actually more of a thrash band called Brain Damage. Started getting into Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth, early stuff. Played a few originals, a lot of covers. Then around early 90s is when I first met up with Gary Ingram. We got into another band with a few different people, went through a few different names. Ultimately, we called it Mindbender. That band was pretty good. We played a few shows. We actually opened up for Tony McAlpine for a couple shows in Chicago, which was kind of a highlight for that band. It was kind of a big deal for me. Probably middle 90s, 95-ish or so was when I kind of took a break from playing music, started a new job, started working shift work, days, nights, and weekends. Didn't really have much time to play in any bands. Started a family, started raising kids, so it's kind of off the scene for quite a while. during that time, I started fooling around with trying to design websites, develop websites and maintain them, and kind of had a little side business going for a little bit. That news kind of got around to Gary again, and he reached out to me and said he had an Iron Maiden tribute band called Power Slave, and they were looking to make a website, and asked if I'd be willing to take care of that for him. So I started to design the website and keep it up to date and maintain it and stuff. And after a little while of doing that, he asked if I was still if I was still playing at all, if I'd be interested in actually playing. Hadn't played in a while, so kind of had to brush up on stuff for a while, but started playing at that point with Power Slave. Around the same time that I started playing with Power Slave, kind of reconnected with John Bravo, who had been in Brain Damage earlier, and he said he was playing and still playing, working on originals, just kind of jamming with Dan Driscoll. They were doing some covers, some original stuff, more rock, blues, classic rock type things. So I went ahead and joined up with them, and that was Bravo. So I was kind of playing in both Power Slave and Bravo around the same time. After a while, a lot of these bands started to kind of fade away and fizzle out for various reasons. And I ultimately got into another band with Gary, and Bill Swanson was the singer, and it was called Metal Years, playing various metal covers. And that was around the time that Maiden Chicago first started to develop and sort of take form. I remember Gary asked me if I thought Dan would be a good fit and would be able to play, some Maiden songs for a Maiden tribute. And I said, yeah, I don't see why not. I think he would work out well. He can play that stuff. And then shortly after that, Dan called me and said, or he asked if I was involved with this Iron Maiden tribute that Gary was working on, and I said no, not at the moment. But he asked me if I'd come down to his house and kind of play the songs along with him on guitar to help him learn, so he can kind of get up to speed, because he was going to be playing with them and he needed to kind of catch up and learn a bunch of songs. So I knew that they were looking for a singer. Being that we were all in Metal Years at the time, I heard a lot of the chatter going on about Maiden Chicago and looking for a singer and trying people out. And I know that they were trying to convince Bill to do it. And eventually he did, joined up with them. And that was about the same time that Metal Years broke up. So at this point, Maiden Chicago was pretty much off and running, and I remember going to the debut show at Bobby McGee's, and was pretty impressed. They sounded good. They did a lot of good songs. They had a good production, stage setup, banners, scrims, merch was flowing. Their website was top notch. You could tell Eric did a really good job with graphics and just the whole overall design and look of it. Their Facebook was blowing up. Everything was just really dialed in. And of course, at that time, it was the first time in a long time since I had come back from not playing that I was without a band. So, to tell you the truth, at that point, I was a little bit jealous that they had things going pretty well. A little bit of a downer for me at that point. So not too long after that, Steve Reimer reached out to me, who had been the singer in Power Slave previously, and said he was working on a Judas Priest tribute with Brent Sullivan, a few other guys, Eddie Puxis, Brian Daniel, who I didn't know at the time, but turned out to be really cool guys. And so he said they were looking for another guitar player. So I said, sure, I'll check it out, play some Priest, see how that goes. And that was Sin After Sin. And so I joined up with them. We started putting things together and getting out and playing. We actually opened for Maiden Chicago at least a couple of times. So it was going pretty good. Felt a little bit better, kind of getting back out in the scene and stuff. Then maybe a little over a year or so later was when Dan gave me a call and said that Eric was considering leaving. He was going to join Damaged Justice, and they were going to be looking for another guitar player. So I think they were maybe planning on doing some auditions, putting it out there. But I think Dan might have been pushing for me to be the replacement.
When Maiden Chicago first got together, I wanted Al in the band from day one. We were been friends for a long time, long before playing in bands, and Al had helped me learn all the material, and I had wanted to jam with Al again in another project after Bravo. So Al was my go-to, my pick.
We had Al come in, and he was in, I think he played in Power Slave with Gary and Bill. And again, just, right off the bat, we hit it off, and it just gelled, and so we didn't miss a beat, Al knew all that stuff, and
so went down, checked it out. Of course, tried to brush up on my stuff and tried to do the best I could. And luckily they chose to pick me.
I thought he was a good fit. I knew what he was capable of doing before because I jammed with him. So I was just not nervous about it at all. I knew he'd do a good job.
Although I knew that I think I would be able to get up to speed and cover the guitar parts pretty well. I knew I had some pretty big shoes to fill, not only from the guitar playing perspective, but also just kind of media and things from a production perspective that I had to hopefully try and keep moving forward. Also, a bit of a concern for me, and I think it was probably a concern for the rest of the band, was that Eric did a lot of backing vocals, and that was real important to supporting the vocal strength of the band. And I didn't have any backing vocal contributions at all, really. I can maybe holler around a Wrathchild here and there, but I'm not a melodic singer at all, so I couldn't provide a lot of that. Luckily, Ralph also did some backing vocals as well, so he was able to keep some of that consistent even after I joined.
Well, I had met Al before and jammed a little bit with him on and off through the years, so I was aware that obviously he was a proficient player, and I thought it was a great fit, and a good guy. He's always been a good guy. I always got along with him. I knew that it would be something we wouldn't have to worry about, that he would learn the parts properly, and we could just go on, and it would not be an issue. And that turned out to be true, obviously.
No thoughts until I saw him. I didn't know much of Al. At the same time, it's a bunch of faith in the guys. It's not like they were going to pick someone who couldn't do it, so it's not like I was concerned or expected anything less than it was. But I had come out and see Al for the first time, and Al's got it. So they kind of kept going without a hitch. Al knows what he's doing. He's done a great job ever since.